afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's having a good week this week. And we are going to continue talking about gut health, our favorite subject. And today we're actually going to talk about food sensitivities. Because a lot of times people will say, I went to the doctor, I got tested for food allergies, and I wasn't allergic to anything. But I want to just differentiate for people, there's an IgE allergy response versus an IgG sensitivity response. An allergy response happens immediately. For instance, people are allergic to peanuts. They'll eat a peanut and immediately itchy throat, scratchy throat, some people hive, some people even anaphylactic. That's an immediate reaction. A sensitivity is a reaction that happens over time. So say you're just feeling gross, bloated, maybe you got a skin rash. I've got the symptoms here: gas and bloating, brain fog, fatigue, rashes, bowel changes, even muscle aches and pain. And it could be something you ate a couple days ago, because food sensitivity reactions can take up to 72 hours. So that's why people have a really hard time pinning down what they're sensitive to, because it could have been something they ate 3 days ago versus a food that they just now ate. So that's why it's important to differentiate here. And there's also IgA even, which is specific to gut inflammation. But for the purposes of today, we're going to just differentiate between allergy and sensitivity. And again, I just read to you the list of sensitivity symptoms, and there can be others. But most people, it doesn't always have to be bowel symptoms. It can be, like I said, brain fog and fatigue and rashes and just an overall achiness and just feeling a little bit inflamed, and they're not quite sure what's bothering them. And again, I have remember can be a delayed response up to 72 hours. So how do you tell what your sensitivities are if it sounds like it's so confusing? The gold standard is the elimination diet. Now, there are lots of elimination diets. For example, one might include getting rid of the biggest inflammatory foods like gluten, dairy, grain, sugar, and eggs can also be a big one. There's the paleo autoimmune protocol that goes another step of even taking out eggs. So they're all different. There's also the Whole30 approach. But the goal of all the elimination diet is to take out big inflammatory foods that we know can really inflame, allow the gut to heal, see if you feel better. So that is the gold standard, but it's difficult because you're basically having to take out so many foods at once. So again, it's the gold standard. A lot of patients do it and have good success. But we also have food sensitivity testing, and while it's not perfect, for example, maybe you haven't eaten a food in years and years and years, maybe you don't show as high of a reaction, it can still really help narrow into us. And I put serves as a way to help narrow down what might be giving you issues. So instead of saying, what could it be? You know, we have a little green, yellow, red. This food is good, it's low inflammatory, it's high inflammatory for you. It gives us a way to kind of hone in and see what might be specifically giving you problems. And so it's helpful because instead of eliminating all the big foods, it might allow you, so maybe you have it shows high for gluten, but it doesn't show high for like an egg. It's just going to help you kind of narrow down what your issues are. And I have some people, you know, they just react across the board to all the foods, everything they're eating, and you know, they're reacting to. So that goes down to, remember, look to the gut for the root cause, especially with multiple sensitivities. Because somebody that's reacting to tons of foods, they definitely have leaky gut or intestinal permeability, and the problem is the gut. You still want to remove, you know, the big inflammatory foods while you're healing, but the problem is at the gut level. So you're wanting to heal the gut while you remove those foods. So food sensitivity testing is a good way. You've got the elimination diet. And so, okay, how long do we eliminate foods for? Some people say 14 days, 21 days. A lot of them are 30 days, like I said, the Whole30, because really it's hard to give up foods for a long time, so we like to give little short intervals. Truly, and don't hate me for this statement, it takes 90 days to get a food antibody out of your system. So sometimes I'll start and say, hey, let's start with 30, but really 90 days is about how long it takes to get that antibody out of the system to really see, are you sensitive to it or not? So if you can make it 30 days and you're feeling better, that's encouragement to continue to keep going. And then I have, and this is the hard part, people can do it. They see the proof if they do the testing. They're really removing the foods, but when it comes to adding back in, it's a really hard process. You add in one food at a time. So for instance, maybe you gave up, I don't want to use this example of good chocolate, but maybe you gave up chocolate. You start by reintroducing one little piece of chocolate, and then you would wait 3 days, see how you did. If you did okay, maybe you try a little bit more, and you could say, hey, this food is okay. Or maybe you did eggs, and you tried it and got a really bad reaction. Then you would know, okay, I'm not quite ready to add that food back in. So it's a very specific process of, again, going back to the 72 hours like I talked about. And the interesting thing is, when you first remove it, when you're first eating a food, you may not notice for 72 hours, but normally when you add it back in, if it is agitating you, I have noticed that people will have that reaction sooner. but it's really a process of adding in one at a time and seeing how you do. It's a hard process, but then you really know what triggers you and what does not. So that is kind of the process of how you do it. And again, I have looked to the gut because really, if you're having a lot of food sensitivities, again, not the foods are more of a secondary because your gut is inflamed. You're reacting to so many things. But the reason we remove the food is we're allowing. It was step one of our gut protocol that we talked about. Remove pathogens, remove foods that are inflammatory. But then the goal is kind of to heal the gut and see how you do. Now, some people just can't have certain things again, but the goal would be the non-inflammatory things, because some people are show sensitivity to non-inflammatory foods that we consider inflammatory. We need to add those foods back in if possible. So again, that is my spiel on food sensitivity testing. You can look up elimination diets, but I do recommend working with a practitioner because it can get a little nitty-gritty. And then for the food sensitivity testing, we definitely do several different companies for food sensitivity testing. And that testing has come really far to really help and really just kind of walking through the elimination and adding foods back in. So if you find yourself suffering from any of these symptoms, thinking about food sensitivities and gut health in general is a good place to go. So anyway, I hope you guys have a good afternoon. Just wanted to remind you about the New Patient November, which is 10% off for our new patients. We're going to have an open house coming up soon in December we're really excited about, so look for that. If you have any questions, email us at support@restorative-functional-medicine.com. Give us a call, 865-367-9506, and follow us on Instagram. We're going to try to put some of these Facebook Lives on IGTV. I'm learning about all this technology, and it's super fun. Shout out to Brittany Newton, my social media manager, who's helping me with all this. Okay, I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and I'll see you next week.